All right, thank you very much, Footsie. That was absolutely amazing.
The energy in the room is insane, ladies and gentlemen. You have to be here. However, as I mentioned, we have a surprise for you. Tonight is just so entertaining that the ladies' defender, sweet sister Sensia, will now be featured on 869 Forward. So now we're going to welcome sweet sister Sensia to have a word with us with Jonel and Akilah.
It feels good being in the middle, isn't it? How you guys feeling tonight?
Excellent.
I know, right?
I'm very happy you're here.
I know you are, aren't you? Look at you. First of all, I want to say a special good night to you guys. And, you know, everybody call me the ladies' defender. I'm about the ladies because I love strong, beautiful women. And I love to push my women. Jonel? No, I'm the ladies' defender, but I'm still going to come at you, my brother. You know what I mean? Because, hey, you're representing my area, all right? So, I mean, first of all, what I would like to know, let me start with you, Akilah. You're strong, you're beautiful. You are a mother of 3. Can you stand up for a minute? Woo! A mother of 3. Where you get a flat belly from, first of all? Because I'm working on mine for years. And I only got one.
I don't have any. I know the struggle. I know the struggle. The struggle is real out here.
Let me tell you something. You look amazing. Let me just
Thank
start
you
by
so
saying
much.
that.
Thank you.
I mean, you know, let me put down this because I want to talk to you. A woman, you're running in politics. You're doing politics right now. How does it feel? I mean, how does it feel? I mean, sometimes, you know, you find that there's people who probably like be fight down and it can weaken you and your strength could drop. I mean, how do you keep going? Tell me.
Well, first of all, Michelle, before we start, I have to let everybody know I've been admiring Michelle since we were in convent school. I mean, to me, Michelle, as well as some other of her classmates, they were strong women since then. They knew what they wanted. They knew what they were about. And I admired that about them. So when I was a little bit younger, I looked up and said, you know what? I just like the fact, some people might have called it, you being disgusting, you don't like to hear. But I saw it as someone who had a mind of their own, who believed in themselves and wasn't afraid to say, this is who I am. And then now we see it with you every single day. So I just wanted to put that out there first and foremost.
Yeah, make me blush up here and, you know, thank you.
But the thing about politics, yes, you know, people can say so many different things about you, but it's important. My granny always told me, from since I was young, you can't take things personal from people who don't know you personally. And so for me, I just focus on that. They don't know me personally, so I'm not going to take it personal. Stay focused on what it is I'm trying to achieve and just keep going.
And I like that you said that because you see, what I've been seeing lately is so much hate, right? But there's so much more love than hate. Sometimes when you find that there's 4 people that don't like you, they say this, they talk negative, there's 24 who love you. So you got to also, because that's what I always remember in myself, because sometimes I'll be like, Mommy, sometimes I used to go home to my Mommy, this person don't like me, and the person, Mommy would say, Michelle, to the 2 that don't like you, there's 10 who loves you. Worry about the 10. Eventually
change
the
your
2
focus.
will get to know you, and then they will get to love you.
Yes, and change your focus.
What I like about you, and that I've noticed, and also Jonel too, is that you guys are people persons. And I always say, if any politician was to ask me advice, I would say, first of all, if you are not a people person, then don't go into it. Because like a friend of mine just said a while ago, you could basically be the man or the woman who does everything by the books. You follow the rules, you play the role, you do everything that you have to do. But because you don't communicate with your people, they don't see you. Because at the end of the day, it ends and stops with them there. But I don't really want to get to know you on that side of it. I want to get to know you, who you are. What are you about? Besides everybody seeing you on the screens now saying, okay, she's running, she's representing West Bastair. I mean, who is Akilah? Tell us about you.
Well, for me, first and foremost, I am a wife and I am a mother. Family have always been important to me. And I show up, people hear me and they see it. I'm always with family because that's what's important to me. Being able to have that sense of being grounded and being around people who care, who motivates you, and people who you can share and give to. And then that comes out then in anything else that you do and any other interaction that you have with anybody else. So it's like getting that positive energy that you can then give back out to others. And so I just care about family. Family is important to me. And I just want to see communities with families that can be bonded and together and share the same type of, love for each other like I experienced growing up. And so that's me. I'm just a family person.
I'm going to ask this question to both yourself and Jonel. And Jonel, I'm going to start with you first. I'm a mother, right? Sometimes when I'm working, it gets very frustrating. Sometimes if the job is not done or something goes wrong on the job, I'm so frustrated that sometimes I'm scared to even go home because I don't want to go home and take it out on my child, which I don't. So I kind of do the woosa at the job, and then I go home and I hug my child because she comforts me. Now, my question to you is that, I ain't in this field and I ain't going to ever be in this field, but you guys are there. You understand what I'm showing you? And I know it's a field that you have to be strong. You have to be very, very strong. And I know sometimes it's very frustrating for you guys, and then you have to go home to your daughter, you have to go home to your kids. How do you balance it? How do you balance being in politics and home? And let me start with you.
Well, let me start off by saying big up Footsie, fantastic performance. It's a balancing act, as you said, and it's not easy. Hear me now?
Yeah.
All right, great. Big up Footsie again. It's a balancing act, as you said, and it's like anything else in your life. It doesn't have to be politics. It could be, extracurricular activities, and when you're a student, you have to find that balance. You have to know yourself. You have to know what your limits are. You got to know how much you could do, how far you could go. And to some extent, you have to know to compartmentalize what's happening in your life. You got to know where to draw the line and say, look, all right, let me turn off this cap and put on this cap. And it comes down to knowing yourself. In order to succeed in anything you're doing, you got to be honest with yourself. You got to be true to yourself, know your limits, know what you can do, but strive to do even better.
What about you, Akilah? Talk to me. How do you balance it? Because you ain't got one in a tree.
It's
one to
three,
three.
yes. It's the same idea. But for me, you have those moments when you're really stressed out and you don't want to go home and take it out on everybody. That's when you're going to pass me on the street with my volume up loud and you just see me bouncing. Music calms me.
It does.
And so I just take the time in the car on that drive home, really listen to some music to calm myself down, knowing that I'm about to step out of my professional role and into that mommy room. So my intersection in between there, some good music.
All right. So here we're going on now. It's getting down to crunch time because we all know that June 5th is when we're going to be doing the election day, right? And it has just started for you guys. It's going to get tougher. It's going to get rougher. It's going to get crazier. I know that you guys are ready because I can see that, right? But my question is, I know there's going to be everybody saying, Akilah, Jonel, Akilah, Jonel. It's going to be like you in the toilet and you can't even let it out because you keep hearing the names and they're distracting you, right? My question is, how are you going to be able to deal with so many people? Because everybody is going to be looking, you representing West, you representing Central, and everybody is going to be looking towards you guys right now. Your name is going to be called a lot. How are you going to be able to deal with people, still campaign, and still manage your everyday life?
It's tough. Trust me, it's tough. I was joking earlier and said, people like to say you only see politicians every 5 years. But it's like when the election comes, your phone starts blowing up and you start hearing from people for the first time in 5 years. But I look at it as a good thing. The reality is my phone, since the election was announced, my phone just going crazy. I'm getting literally hundreds of WhatsApps every day. I think I had 104 calls yesterday. It's just crazy. But I look at it from this standpoint. If these people that reach out to me means they want to hear from me, they want to see me, they want to talk to me, and there's something that I can do to help these people out. It started a long time. It ain't just when election called. We've been preparing for this for years. It's not my first time around. But when you're doing something good, and at the end of the day, you're going to be helping people and putting people in a better position than they are now, it's worth it. You feel good, you feel it energizes you, it motivates you, and you feel good about what you're doing. Yeah, you get tired and you're human, you get fed up at times. But when you think about that end goal, for me, it's not even so much about winning the seat. It's about helping people. And I'm in a better position to help them if I win. So that just motivates me and keeps me going.
And for me, I am the type of person I like to plan out everything that I do and be as organized as possible. And so early on, that point was going to come when you're going to be busy on the road, meeting with people. There's still people who want to talk to you in office. There's still people who want to talk to you on the phone. And so from very early, I created structures. And so I have numbers that people can call, and you can set an appointment to meet with me or schedule a call to speak with me, because I want everybody to have that opportunity, and I don't want to have 100 missed calls, because you can't get back to 100 missed calls all at once or somebody will be missed. And so I put structures in place so that I'll be able to have someone who is keeping record. These are the people who you need to reconnect with. These are the people you need to call. These are the appointments you have with individuals, because everybody have to be heard. Everybody's needs to be met in the best way that you can. And so I just put structures in place that would allow me to be able to get things done, basically.
All right, well, I'm not going to take up, most of this show because, I know Amalia and the beautiful hosts have questions that they want to ask you guys. But what I want to say, I don't want to ask. I just want to say from my final, everybody knows I'm a people person. I love people. Even when they do me wrong, I still love people, right? And I'm real about it, right? And what I would say to you, Jonel and Akilah, and any politician who's listening right now, once you're going to do it from the heart. And be sincere about what you guys do. Don't just come into politics and, be about, okay, let me see what I can do for me and do for my family and what I can get. You have to love the people, because it's about us, the people, who's going to be going on June 5th to vote to bring you guys in. You understand? At the end of the day, it's up to us. So now you have to the chance to prove your point, tell the people and what they want, what you guys, not what they want to hear. Because we can't tell everybody what they want to hear. Sometimes people want to hear, you're going to give me this, you're going to give me that. Most people only think about what you can give me. What about what you can give? You know what I mean? At the end of the day, it's not about benefiting. People need to understand it's not about benefiting one person. It's benefiting a whole community. So if you cannot be served as an individual, okay, some people might say, I want a house, I want this, because everybody going to want. But at the end of the day, you guys are also human. And people need to understand that you guys are human too. So same times, you just have to show us, hey, this is what I'm going to do for you guys. And, don't make promises that you cannot keep, because we don't want to hear promises. We reached to the point where we fed up on promises. We want to know that you guys going to bring it. And when you bring it well. And I'm sure I've seen you guys very strong. You speak very good. And I'm proud of you, because you're a woman. I love my women. You know what I'm saying? So, hey, you just got to do what you got to do. And if the people out there think that, hey, you deserve it, they're going to give it to you. You know what I mean? Jonel, the same thing. Amalia, I'm going to turn it back over to you guys.
Excellent. Thank you. We have banks.
Okay, no problem.
He's got the fancy legs.
All right, so I'm going to direct the first question to, the 8th question to Jonel. Jonel, this show is about getting to know the candidates, getting to know you all on an intimate level, putting the politics aside for a second, and getting to know you as human beings, as since you're quite eloquently put it. So, Jonel, can you tell us about your upbringing, about your childhood? How did you grow up? Where did you grow up? Can you give us some memories of when you were small, growing up in your community? I grew up in McKnight, in my old family home, which my grandparents would have built back in the 1930s. Same house that they raised all 8 of the children in. By the time I came around, it was me, my sister, my parents, my grandmother living there. And that was my beginning, the corner, Shaw and Central, that was my turf there. I was like anybody else. I think one of the things that helped me was the fact there were a lot of young boys around my age living right there. So I had a crew, I had a lot of people around me, and it was fun times. I mean, the 80s in McKnight was amazing, and going down to the Bay, Irish Town Bay, like everybody else, playing football, cricket in the streets, pitching marbles. That was me. Basketball obviously was my sport. I'm sure everybody looking at the Michael Jordan series that's going on now, and that was me then, in those days. And the Dome. Anybody who knows me, my crew, those days, we created a basketball court on Shah Avenue in an empty lot called the Dome, and people would leave all over to come and play basketball there. So that was where it started. Bastia High School, junior high, played basketball for Hitters, basketball club. Yes, I played for Hitters. You were a little younger. Yeah. All 3 teams, junior, A, Premier, Division. So I was in that for, a couple of years. I actually went to school in Newtown. I went to Newtown School. But Pasha School, as it was then, it was, I think it's Tucker Clark now. I went Pasha School. But, I really enjoyed growing up in Matt Night. Moved to Mattingly a little after that. But my formative years were there. So if you grew up in Matt Night around that time, you knew what it meant to go by the Strand and by Blunks. Matt Night people can understand that. It's a little heavy cake. You eat 2 of them, and that was a meal. Plunks was the coconut ones. But, the days when the bands, carnival time, the bands used to come around by 5 ways, and you're living in an old wooden house, and everything started to shake, and when the time they hit 5 ways, you had to run and start taking down my grandmother's pictures off the wall and catching trinkets as they were falling from the band. But, nothing fancy, nothing special. I was like anybody else.
Everybody else. I understand. Akilah, what about you? Your childhood, how did you grow up?
My childhood, let's see. There were 3 communities that raised me. My parents lived in Shadwell, and I didn't like it at all. It was just way too quiet for me. There weren't many kids my age there. And so every opportunity I had to get out of Shadwell, I went out of Shadwell. The other community would have been Dorset, which was just down the street because my grandmother lived there. I think everybody would remember Teacher Esdale for the Lily of the Valley preschool. Many people from Market Street and Irish Town would have gone to preschool there because she was one of the first persons to have a preschool. And it was a little bit more rowdier than Shadwell was. You had Pappy Shop just down the street and the basketball right there, the little playground for us. And so it was a little bit more rowdier, but Granny didn't really want us to be out on the road too much. So my favorite place to go was Cardin Avenue in the village by my family. So weekends were spent there. Every vacation was spent there just so that I don't have to be in the quiet Shadwell. I wanted the action because when you go down to Cardin Avenue, you stay there on a Friday night, Saturday morning you wake up to the sound of music playing outside and you hear people passing and talking to each other, neighbors cleaning the drains as you go down, and that was community, like you just a sense of community, and it was more than just neighbors, it was like family. And then, being told, go down by Carter shop to buy something for us, but don't go in the door all the way down to the bottom of the end, because on one side was a rum shop and on the other side was a normal shop. So you can't go in the door by the rum shop, go in the other side, don't look left nor right, ask what you want, head out the door, back up the street to do what you have to do. And timing you, yes, timing you. If you come back, exactly. Not understanding that we had to take detours, and it didn't matter because we're going to take detours anyway, take the long way back, just so that it will be out a little bit longer.
You remember to say good morning and good afternoon?
You had to say good morning and good afternoon. That wasn't even an option. And so I enjoyed my time in the village because most of the time it's a big family that I came from. Everybody knows my family. And so there was many cousins, and we had opportunities to just disappear for hours in the day. We used to go down by the cenotaph and just play or just sit down and just do anything that we could think about for hours.
And that doesn't happen now.
And doesn't really happen now. That's true.
I met 3-year-old children who have their own
Exactly.
iPhones and they don't go outside anymore.
Or just being able to go down to Lime Key Bay. Like I said last night, that's where I learned to swim. Mm-hmm. And so it was just, I liked the atmosphere of the village growing up. It gave you that sense of togetherness. Everybody looking out for each other. Everybody making sure you're okay. There was anybody's house you go in at any time and you could get something to eat and drink, and it didn't matter. And that is what I liked most about my childhood growing up.
Wonderful.
In and out of everybody's home, just being able to be around action all the time. Shadwell, too quiet.
Well, I mean, since Since we're on the topic of your upbringing, what from your upbringing do you think has prepared you guys now for public service?
Who's first?
Jonel, you can go ahead.
Why not? Well, growing up in McKnight is a very dense community. Central Bastion itself is a very dense constituency, and so you just had so many people around, so many different characters. So you had an opportunity to see a lot of different societal levels of persons, but just so many different people. You're able to interact with so many different people, and so from an early age, I really didn't know the difference between haves and have-nots and all of that. Everybody just seemed one big mixing bowl of people, And as Akilah said, back then in McKnight, everybody sort of looked after each other. And so that sort of grounding, that being accustomed to being around people, being accustomed to being around different types of people, really set the tone in terms of my outlook. And my grandmother always said, and it's probably the one thing that I remember most in terms of advice from her, was that you should be able to dine with kings but never lose the common touch. And basically that means strive for the best, strive to be the best, but don't forget the people that you come across on the way. You have to be able to relate. And I think that essentially is it. My ability to relate to anybody comes from that upbringing.
And it was the same thing on my end as well, because I had my parents who would tell me that the person who cleans the street is just as important as the prime minister of the country. And so you treat everybody with respect, and you look out for each other, and you look out for your neighbors as best you can. And then I had my grandparents who, they would give anything that they have. As long as someone was in need, you would find, my grandmother, for instance, there were Saturday mornings we would be by her house, and then she would tell us, just go in the cupboard and take out 2 tin of sausages, or go in the back of the yard and pick some of them green fig and everything, place them into these plastic bags, and then you just see families coming, and she's just giving back. And she just reminded us is that everybody, you don't know where persons come, you don't know their situations, you don't know what's happening, but if somebody reaches out, you must always be willing to help, even if it's just the smallest and it's your last. Maybe you might be able to, or you see an opportunity where you'll be able to get that back, so you should always be willing to be able to give to somebody else. And even until today, I find that myself and my cousins who would have grown up around her, we understand that. And so as much as we can, we try to give back. And then again, my grandmother with the preschool, it's in a neighborhood where it's McKnight and it's Market Street. And some of these families, they may not have been able to pay for the school. And that didn't even matter. She would make sure not only they have breakfast, because some of the children, we understood, they come out of households where they couldn't even have breakfast before they come to school. So the parents can't pay, but every Saturday, Granny takes us to grocery shopping with her so we can prepare for the next day of the preschool. And we would make sure that all the children are fed at mornings so that they all have that same starting point. And so I saw that level of service around me all the time. And even persons who knew my grandmother, Miss Byron, in the village, my grandfather considered our family shop as it was just somewhere where people just come and you get whatever you want. There was a running tab that was never paid, and it meant nothing to her. My grandfather just figured it's a hobby, you really just want to be able to help, and so he would help with the hobby. And so I saw that all around me, just being able to give back. And so for me, it's just something that is what I know. And so that's why being able to help and understanding that there's so many persons out there who may not be able to have what I have, but if you can just give a little, then that would be helpful. And that's the whole reason.
That is lovely. And Akilah, I have a question for you, because the recurring topic here, it seems to be family and your upbringing. But I want to know what your children think about you doing this. Do they understand what mommy is going out fighting for the public every day? Do they understand what's going on?
They're starting to come around to it. To be honest, I have been shielding them a bit from it all. And even from the beginning, I just didn't want them to, for them, I just wanted them to see it as, mommy's working, this is what she have to do. But if I do stuff like I have an annual back-to-school program, I want them to learn to give too. So I'll have them help with packing the bags or being able to help with packing the school bags or the party bags or whatever it is. And in their minds, they're just thinking we're just trying to help, but they don't understand the level of it. Until lately, when their teachers in school start telling them, I saw your mom on TV.
Oh boy.
And they're like, okay. And their friends are like, I saw you guys on a video. And they're like, Mommy, what did you do with that video that we did together? I was like, oh, nothing. It just was viewed by a whole lot of people. And so now they're starting to understand it a little bit more because friends are talking about it. Like, for instance, my 11-year-old, he came home from school and said, well, Mommy, apparently you're doing something important because my friends say you're going to win in the upcoming election. So I'm like, okay, so you understand what Mommy's doing now? She said, yeah, I have an idea because we're learning about election and politics in school and your name just happened to come up. So that's when you have to start telling them exactly what it is and helping them to understand that, I'm going to be gone for a bit, but it's for a good reason and everything. And they're like, you know what, Mommy, just go out and do it.
Service. So speaking of service, I want to go back to, you were talking about giving back and your grandmother teaching you the value of helping others own you, etc. So we're going to start with Jonel. Yesterday I had a conversation with someone from your constituency. She lives in McKnight. And she was explaining to Wahanda and I about the conditions of some of the houses in McKnight, the crack houses, the drugs, the abandoned properties, etc., etc. It's an eyesore, right? So basically what we want to know is, in terms of your intentions for your community, for constituency number 2, what plans do you have to clean up McKnight and the rest of the constituency and make it a better place to raise children, to raise families, and for the community, in general?
That is one of the pillars of my platform, to redevelop and upgrade not just McKnight but the whole constituency. We talk about McKnight. What it looks like today is not what it looked like when I grew up there. A lot of the houses are just now derelict. A lot of the are gone and replaced by empty lots and overgrown bush. But again, it's not just McKnight, it's Irish Town, it's Market Street, Dorset. Even when you look at a place like Greenlands, which used to be, considered a middle-income, well-to-do neighborhood, is now basically abandoned. It's and the houses are derelict and stuff, and so it creates so many different issues for the residents that are there. From a security standpoint, it's an issue when you think about the empty lots that are being used as dumping sites, and the garbage and the sewage and the rats and the insects, and it's really filthy, and the place just looks bad. It looks dirty. We're people, and I believe that my people deserve a better environment in which to live, in which to raise their children, to raise their families. And so I've done a lot of research on this, and what I've found out is a lot of these properties, they're tied up. Somebody died, some estate issue, or somebody's migrated and just can't be bothered with it. And a lot of these properties, nobody's paying, house and land tax for them. So they owe the government a whole set of taxes. In many instances, the taxes that they owe exceeds the value of the property. And why are we allowing this? Let's repurpose these properties, especially in a constituency which is limited physically by space. Let's repurpose them and make them available for persons in the communities, for residential and commercial purposes. So I wrote a 9-page proposal which I submitted to my colleagues in cabinet to consider, which was well received. The relevant ones really jumped on it, and we were able to do walkthroughs with different ministries and different departments. A lot of them thanked me because they were like, the efforts have been segregated amongst different ministries, but my proposal sort of brought everything together. And so I look at it in terms of, first of all, using local talent, youth, young people from in the communities to clean up these areas. they get paid for it. It creates employment. Let's clean up these areas, use them to do that, and then having gone through the necessary legal proceedings, let us look to take back these properties, whether acquire them by the state and make them available again for the people within these communities. The whole purpose is to give opportunities to residents, particularly young people, but also to improve the housing stock. It's about improving our whole environment. Everybody wants to feel comfortable in the house at nights. This is what Team Unity has been doing when we look at the roofing program, some initiatives at the NHC, to the health program, trying to improve persons' lives.
Okay, brilliant. Akilah, what about you? Just tell us very briefly what you have done. What's that word? I know you all don't know what that word is.
Remember, you're dealing with politicians.
I don't know that word. That word sounds familiar.
So tell us briefly and concisely.
Another one.
A few things you have done over the last 5 years to improve constituency number 3.
That's a long list, eh?
Well, half of the list of the things that you have done for constituency number 3 over the last few years, and what you have intended if you were to win your seat.
Well, I think I spoke a lot to it last night, but we can talk about it again, and I could probably point out some of the ones that are a bit meaningful to me. I mean, the ones that I didn't talk about last night, the ones that I feel are most dear to me. One of the things that I have been doing year after year is a back-to-school program where I'm providing children with the basic things that they need for school, such as backpacks and books and pencils and sharpeners and rulers, the simple things that we take for granted, but then there are a lot of families that actually can't afford to provide these for their children. And so having that opportunity to be able to give them something, to give them a start, to ensure that every child who goes to school has the same starting point, that's something that has been dear to me and something that I found over the years. I've always been extra happy and pleased to be able to do it. And then part of that is just offering that simple thing, haircuts for the boys or braiding for the girls. And then you realize how many families, it's these things we take for granted all the time, but these are things that so many can't afford to do. And having that opportunity to do that, it frees up their money a little bit more so they can be able to offer or provide something else that's even more important to their children and their families. Another thing that I have been doing too is since the COVID started is a hot meals program where we go around and we provide meals for the elderly and the most vulnerable, which to me is something that's also important because we understand that there are quite a number of persons within the community that they don't even have electricity or running water, so they can't even provide that meal for themselves. And this is a program that I want to continue because it's been touching so many lives and being able to help families. When you see some families with young children and the children are like so happy when we get there with the hot meals. I mean, this is 2020 and people should not be living like that. And so just being able to provide that for them has been something that's been meaningful and touching to me, and it gives you that opportunity to just reach out to the individuals that you're providing this meal for as well. Some of these elderly people, all they want is someone to talk to. And so when they go, you just sit down with them and you just have a conversation. And there's this one lady in particular, I remember her from since I was a child growing up. And so every time I come in, she tells me, turn around, let me see the backside. Because you know how the elderly ladies are. She's like, you need to put on some weight. You're losing too much weight. Look at you. Your face needs to be round up. And those type of things, it gives you that pleasure and joy just to be around them. And so I enjoy doing stuff like that. But outside of that, we've been talking about it all the time, the roads that have been constructed in Gavies. When I have a young nurse telling me it's so difficult to go to and from work, especially when it rains, and she get her white shoes all messed up because the water is just about up to her ankles and she can't get to pass, and you keep asking and asking, then you have to be able to lobby on behalf of these individuals to be able to get that small infrastructure that was not there all the time. Or what about in Matinley, where the community groups keep saying, it's been years since we didn't have these roads. You have to be able to provide that for them as well. Or even when you go to the schools, Dr. William Connor Primary School, and the principal there tells you, we need computers, but we can't because the the roof where the computer should be is leaking. And so then you find that, being able to ask education, it's just a simple roof. Can you just fix it for them? And then they did that and more. And things like that is what I've been doing within the community and within number 3. And the list is long. I have a mini manifesto that I have been giving out, which lists my achievements as well as my plans. It is mini. It is concise. I'm not going to talk, so everything is in small chunks, so they're easy to read, and it makes it enough so that you'll be able to, read it quickly and understand everything that I'm trying to. But if you ask me to say, I could go on forever, eh?
Next time.
Okay, then.
Next time. All right, well, Akilah, Jonel, this was absolutely amazing, wonderful. Thank you for coming. It was very insightful. I think we've learned a lot about, the two of you in terms of your personal lives and your upbringing, etc. And I hope the listeners have actually learned something about their candidates that can help them make a decision in the polls on the 5th of June. So I'm going to turn it over to Rohanda now, and thank you guys for coming once again.
Thank you so much, Mali and Rohanda.
Yeah, thanks for having us. It's a pleasure. A good opportunity for people to realize politicians are people too. We just like you.
Exactly.
And hopefully after the election we can come back and have a debrief as to the lead up.
That's a really good idea.
Yes.
Debrief.
Debrief.
Yes, I like that.
A concise debrief.
A concise debrief.